I'm Chief Photographer Adam Napick with KOAA TV in Colorado Springs, Colorado. You're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Brian Seth Hurst.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NAB Live Show from Studio One here, just adjacent to the floor of NAB. We're going to be talking about the state of the VR industry today. I want to tell you, it is one of the fastest moving industries I have ever participated in. And just to give you a couple statistics here, just in the last week, Weaver, VR company, announced transport for distribution. Jaunt announced that they were going to be acquiring third-party content. Voxelis launched a democratization of game creation and distribution, and Facebook 360 is now available in Gear VR. South Park launched an Oculus experience. Goosebumps launched a VR app. Legendary launched the World of Warcraft Jaeger pilot. Viceland launched a partnership with Samsung. Deluxe announced their VR unit. The Google now allows you to iframe your content on the web, so any website can carry 360. Chinese company in retail and advertising, Chinese company Alibaba announced no magic lab for VR retail. VR retail is going to be huge. Startup Retake is creating shopping experiences via Oculus Rift, and Virtual Sky is an agency completely dedicated to VR and 360 production, an advertising agency. At F8, Facebook announced their 360 cam spec that you yourself can build for $30,000. And they also launched their social VR program, which is pretty gosh darn cool, joining VTime and Altspace VR. So we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to quickly, oh, by the way, 2 days ago, if you wanted to watch a cancer surgery live from Medical Realities in VR, you could. I did not watch that. I'm not good with blood. So I'm so honored to have these folks join me today. I'm going to introduce them quickly, and then we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about where this industry is. This is Helen Situ from Next VR. She is a VR evangelist, and she is one of my favorite women in VR. And we've known each other like since the beginning, and you know. Then we have Bryn Moser from Riot. And I got to tell you, Riot, the thing I love about Riot is you create content and you give people the opportunity to take action socially from the content you create. Your VR content has been amazing. It's up on video. It's up on Little Star, yes?
Yeah.
So there's We'll Talk Distribution. Clifton. So this is Clifton Dawson, and he is president of Greenlight VR, and they just released a 2016 VR industry report today. Right. So you can purchase that report for $9.95, and every bit of research that's come from Greenlight VR I have profited from, so I highly suggest buying that. And finally, my very good and long-term friend, we weren't in VR years ago, we knew each other, now we're both in VR.
Right.
He is from Google Cardboard, Unofficial Cardboard, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, great. So we have content for each one of you, so I'm going to start with Bryn.
Yeah.
So just in the booth, they know we're going to be actually showing some stills from Riot. Can you talk a little bit about Riot?
Sure.
The stills show your work. We're going to be showing the Nepal project and Syria.
Great. Yeah, you know, Riot is a media company that's for the last year specialized in VR. We've shot VR in over 45 countries, made over 100 films. Right now, we're really pushing to kind of get into news with it. So we're trying to release a 360 video a day. We have a big announcement on Wednesday that I'm not allowed to talk about, but we're very excited, and I think it's going to be a real game changer for the industry. So stay tuned for that on Wednesday. But our focus is really 360 video. So VR, when it's in the headset, we're going into immersive and some mixed reality, but really pushing as far as we can into Facebook 360, YouTube 360. For us, our interest is really on the mobile penetration side.
You know, it's really interesting because Facebook, you think there's going to be an advertising play in 360 advertising because of Facebook and Google. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel about that, Clifton, but the advertising market driving 360, is that a possibility?
You know, I definitely think so. Before starting Greenlight VR, I worked at Snapchat looking at what the advertising landscape would look like on that medium. And I think one of the things that I learned in that role was, you know, it takes a while to develop native ad experiences. I think VR will require its own native experience. And what we think it will look like today chances are we haven't conceived of it yet.
Did
but
you
it's a very
happen
big
to see the Ritz
opportunity.
crackers ad at Christmas time on Facebook? Ritz crackers?
Ritz crackers?
Yes.
I did not see that.
You know what? It could only have been shot in 360.
Great.
It was, you know, and we're all about that because we've all seen content that you could watch at the movie theater. And we really want to use the medium to actually push it. So I'm going to go to Helen right now from Next VR. This is live VR streaming. And you had something with the Golden State Warriors. Go, Warriors! Sorry, California guy.
We have done the opening season game with the NBA and the Warriors and Pelicans. Most recently, though, we did the Masters tournament and the Big East tournament, men's basketball, also along with Daytona 500. So we recently announced a 5-year deal with Fox Sports, bringing really good endless stream of amazing sports content.
And how do consumers access this content?
Through the Gear VR. So they would download the Next VR app for the Gear VR, but soon we'll be announcing another app soon.
Okay, if we can run Helen's sizzle video. Sizzle video for Next VR. Phil, if you can tell me if that's running. No? Yes? No? All right, we can still talk about it. So here's the thing. One of the big things, and Greg, we're going to talk about this as well. This is an official cardboard, which I will put together while we're talking. One of the big challenges is consumer education, right?
Right.
You know, I've talked to a lot of people in the industry, and it's like, well, how do we get consumers to go buy a Gear VR, or how do we get them onto cardboard? How do we solve this problem? We have Ryan Salazar is backstage at the NAB Luncheon Awards, and he has a very special guest, so excuse us for 2 seconds.
Sure. Got it.
Over to you, Ryan.
This is Ryan Salazar from NAB Show Live and Broadcast Beat. We have a very special guest here. You just got inducted into the NAB Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Chuck Lorre, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
It's such an honor, sir. I'm a huge fan of Big
You gotta
Bang
stop
Theory.
calling me sir.
It's just such an honor because I'm a huge fan of Mike and Molly and Big Bang Theory, and so talk about your award.
It's it's one of those things. It's a little overwhelming, and when it actually happens, it's very moving. I got a little, these people have been just so wonderful and warm and welcoming, and you don't really think about something like this when you're just doing your job every day, and this is quite an honor.
You know, what does it mean to get something like this? It's just so amazing, you know?
I think it means I'm supposed to retire, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. But it's a remarkable acknowledgement, and I don't know. It's hard to put into words to be singled out because I just showed up every day and tried to make stuff funny, and so here we are.
Chuck, I'm curious, what work are you most proud of?
Oh, you're asking me to choose my children? No, I won't do that. No, I've loved every show I've been involved with in different ways. I mean, they're very different, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that they're not variations on the same theme. They're very different shows. 2.5 Men is not the Big Bang Theory, and neither one is Mom or Mike and Molly. Dharma and Greg was its own show. So I think, if anything, I'm proud of the fact that each show lives and breathes on its own.
Excellent. So how's Vegas been treating you?
We just got here, so Vegas has been a shuttle and a chicken dinner, a chicken lunch. That's Vegas so far.
All right. So I heard that you started your career as a songwriter. I did not know that. Could you talk about that?
Well, I've pretty much, not much to talk about it. It was a pretty miserable career. Mm-hmm. It peaked with the theme song for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series,
wow,
which was pretty cool. And I had one song that got covered by Debbie Harry back in the 80s. And thank God for television, because the other thing wasn't happening.
So I'm just curious, our cameraman Dave Burgess here, he was talking about how at the end of every Big Bang Theory, and I did not know this, as much of a fan as I am of the show, you have what's called a vanity card. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about that and maybe let us know what the next one might be?
I have no idea what the next one might be. I've been doing these since 96, 97, the beginning of Dharma and Greg. So I think there's over 600 some odd vanity cards.
Wow.
And I just got into the routine of writing these little essays, or hopefully they were humorous, adding like liner notes on an album. Mm-hmm. Remember albums? You remember albums.
Oh yeah.
Right? Okay.
Barely.
Yeah, just something that might add a little bit of value at the end of the show, worth pausing the DVR and reading, and hopefully worth a few seconds of time.
All right. Well, Chuck, it's been an honor. Again, Chuck Lorre here at NAB Show Live.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan, and congratulations to Chuck Lorre. So I just want to read you, Greg, we're back. I just want to read you some statistics from Piper Jaffray about distribution. They forecast sales of head-mounted displays, that's the things that we view VR with,
right,
at 12.2 million in 2016, 3.6 million Oculus Rifts, 2.1 million HTC Vive, 1 million Sony PlayStation VR. You'd think with over 25 million installs in the field, it'd be a little bit more than that. And 5 million Samsung Gear VR, but they're not even talking about this.
Right.
Can you tell me how consumers are reacting to the Google Cardboard? Google said that so far over 5 million cardboards at the beginning of February have been distributed.
Right.
How, and we know they distributed them in the New York Times. Tell us the role that unofficial cardboard is playing in moving the industry forward.
Well, I think that by being on panels and being on social media, I really wanted to get the word out. And with this cardboard box, this device made out of corrugate, I realized that it wasn't just the gateway drug, but as they call it, but it's really the foundation to keep it out there in the public's eye, in front of the investors, because as we saw with 3D, with the whole 3D movement, not a lot of people were buying the 3D televisions, or maybe the content wasn't out there, but with all these amazing content creators, there is content.
Well, you also didn't have multiple verticals sustaining an industry.
Right.
I mean, we've got medicine, and we've got architecture and real estate.
Academia.
And all those. So real estate agencies are now using these so that people can see what they're going to buy.
Right.
And architects are helping. And I just saw, if you go over to the DJI booth,
right,
with their Inspire drone, you can use the Carl Zeiss, the Zeiss VR1,
yeah,
and actually the way you move your head moves the VR controls of the camera. Incredible. And you can have a pilot and 8 other people on the headset. Amazing. So, Greg, this is branded unofficial cardboard,
right, but
I have seen so many of these things floating around with so many people's different brands on it. I was just at NAB TechCon. They were giving these to all the attendees. It was branded. Tell us about your relationship with the brands.
It's been amazing. I think that it was the low-hanging fruit. I think it's anything in the commercial side is going to be sexy. It's going to be talked about on television. We're going to see the commercials that they're producing to support their brands, and they saw cardboard and this immersive virtual reality experience as a really impactful way of getting their content out at these conventions.
I think it's also great from a user manual point of view, or explaining
training,
the product point of view.
Yeah, and I think it's unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen anything in media that has put us as a participant in the content. We've always been observing it on a screen of some sort, movie screen, television screen, and now to have this addition to media where we can have not only this individual experience, but like what you're saying is that now you have a collective experience with multiple people watching from a drone, or having these social media integrated systems where you have
I mean, Ozo's out on the plaza shooting music in virtual reality. Ozo is shooting a music concert out in the... So the fact is, there is a continuum here. There's 360 content which you can view on your phone. You can click the little cardboard icon, and by the way, I didn't announce that Milk VR now has an application for your phone, Samsung Milk VR, but if you click the little cardboard, you have to put it right inside your Gear VR. But it's a fast track to to the content. It's pretty smart. But there's this continuum. So you have 360, then you have the cardboard, then you have cardboard spec devices like the Mattel Viewmaster, brilliant, for a generation that has kids and says, oh, we knew the Viewmaster, here's VR. Then you have the tethered VRs. Then you have the Samsung Gear VR, proprietary storefront. I noticed that Google has a new 4D.
Right.
Can't be very long till they have a storefront, right? Right, Clifton? Right. Okay. So, and then you move up from the Gear VR, then you move to the tethered ones, which is HTC. We're not going to talk about delays in delivery of Oculus or that today. But you've got this continuum, and you want to move consumers along the continuum. In your report today, so you said there were 6 things that we needed to know. One, Let's see, here I go.
And by the way, there are way more than 6. I think
Well, this was clearly concise. So, and I appreciate that it was concise because it can only pick up. There's agreed, not a day goes by where there's not a new announcement. The industry is moving quickly. There's so much hype. There's a lot of bad VR. You're here to separate the hype from the truth. Thank you very much. So we have how you view it live, creative, and the authority on what's going on. So back to these 6 points. One, you claim we're in the exploration and discovery phase. I would agree with that, especially content creators. I mean, you're learning new stuff every day. You're using different rigs all the time, right? Because there are a million cameras. You guys use EOS Red Dragons.
We use Red Dragons, but we're experimenting all the time with the way that we're able to cover an event, given it, whether it's a Masters tournament, we have a huge area to cover. So we had cameras at the 6-hole, the 16-hole, tee box, green. We actually gave users the ability to swipe and teleport between different locations at events. So really,
fabulous.
A lot of experimentation with that.
Okay, slow adoption curve.
Yes.
So Greg is doing his part, and the cardboard is out there. And by the way, you have Google Voyages or Adventures, whatever it is, where Expeditions, thank you, where students are able to visit. Right. There's also the Google cardboard camera. Over 750,000 photos have been taken with that so far. So things are moving, but still pretty slow when you get up to the higher end experiences.
Yeah, and I think, so first, economic forecasting is always hard. It took us 2 years of really studying this industry. Helen, you used to see me everywhere.
Yes, you were ubiquitous.
and it really does take a nuanced approach to appreciate the breadth of this industry. There are multiple different platforms that are developing in conjunction, and what we say is, look, it's early. Bill Gates is very famous for saying people oftentimes overestimate how much can be accomplished in 2 years, but they underestimate how much can be accomplished in 10 years, and that's the stake. That's the position we take.
Well, you did this thing about the tipping point. By the way, I just want to point out that over $1 billion was invested so far. A lot of that Magic Leap, which is augmented reality, which we haven't got into.
Of course.
But only $652 million were invested all in 2015.
Of course.
And PitchBook, another analyst company, they said that when they interviewed investors, that they were thrilled with the reason they were investing because they thought all the elements were coming together to create VR. You say the tipping point is in 6 to 8 years. Could it not be sooner?
Of course, it can be sooner, and it could take way longer. When we think about where the industry will be in 6 to 10 years, we're thinking about when will this permeate vast workflows that today are not. They're not permeating.
Yeah, and the thing is, we don't have any. You're all nodding your heads, but we really don't have a solid. I know you do have a solid workflow that everyone can use yet. And there's some evidence on the floor. By the way, the augmented and virtual reality pavilion is jam-packed.
Yeah.
Jam-packed. We only have a little bit of time left. I wanted to ask you, Bryn, really quickly. Yeah. You're getting into these places, Syria, Nepal.
Yeah.
And are you using like 16 camera rigs? How are you getting those rigs into the countries?
I mean, that was the tipping point for us with VR, is that we'd been shooting all over the world. I had wanted to shoot VR for the last 2 years, but the cameras were just impossible for us to bring into these places. We couldn't bring a $30,000 camera that had camera operators. And so when I first saw the GoPro setup on, a 3D printed rig, that was a moment that we knew that our shooters, who are documentary filmmakers and journalists, they're also hackers in the field, right?
Every independent filmmaker is a hacker right now.
We bring soldering guns when we go into the field because we have to fix GoPros, we have to fix the rigs, we've got to think on our feet. And so for us, that was the moment that we knew we could get a lot of these cameras, and we have 40 or so cameras all over the world. We get a lot of these cameras and throw them in people's backpacks and start shooting right away. That was the moment that I think for us was the breakthrough.
Well, and I noticed that the content coming from you guys is just getting better and better. And we actually have a segment on Wednesday on independent filmmaking. Yeah. I chose to have you here than there.
Yeah.
But the independent filmmakers are the hackers, and you're getting real quality VR out of the independent community. And Kaleidoscope VR, they're going to be participating here on Wednesday, but they've got the Virtual Reality Film Festival right there.
Right.
Very quickly, we don't have much time left. I just want to ask you each to quickly tell me what you believe is the biggest barrier to the industry moving forward right now.
I would say the biggest barrier to the industry moving forward right now is having a consistent stream pipeline of content. I think right now you do have content coming out, but it's not scheduled. It's not something that people can expect every so often. It's coming out. And so
I would
as
add
we
quality
have
content
quality,
to that.
yeah.
So, because
the pipeline of quality content coming out regularly is something that, as you know, we have Greg having millions of cardboards out there, all the different platforms shipping this year. People are going to be really hungry for content. Where can they find the best content in a really consistent way?
Well, and it's great that there's so many ways to discover it right now, and I'm sure we're all committed to great VR, and when we see great VR experiences, the goosebump experiences gives you goosebumps. Right. So, Bryn.
Yeah, I think that we're getting there every day. I mean, for us, the breakthrough was Facebook 360 and YouTube 360. And just to add a point too, like I think we all are writing the language for what is happening in this industry, and the difference between VR and 360 video, and then even getting into mixed reality and AR. I mean, there is room for growth in all of those places, and I think that's what's really extraordinary is that our focus and specialty is 360 video, because we see we've seen a moment with Facebook 360 and YouTube where the way that you consume video just changed.
Well, and
right? That's a huge moment.
Consumers now, they're buying up the Theta, they're buying up the Pixel Pro, and they're making their own 360 videos and uploading to YouTube and Facebook, so that's got to be driving us forward.
Yeah.
Clifton, biggest obstacle barrier to the industry
Yeah,
moving forward?
and I think you touched on it. I think content creation has to become much easier for consumers. You would say you're probably you're a professional, you're a prosumer, and I think we need people who have very little technical skill to be able to pick up a consumer camera and be able to shoot something and share that with their friends on platforms.
Will there be VR stars like there are YouTube stars who are shooting content?
I would hope so. There, the Viners went over to Snapchat and really helped that. And I think the day that we see 17-year-olds creating 360 video that is driving excitement with 13-year-olds, I think we got a platform.
Yeah, excellent. Greg.
I think that the barrier is the lack of saturation of viewers out there. And I saw that, we've all seen that in the history of media, is that as soon as you get a device like the television out there, then everyone's eyeballs is there to see the content, advertisers like that. So with cardboard or something inexpensive like cardboard, then that can get out to the millions. And we have a plan, which I can't release, as Brent can't release.
That is the nature of our industry.
But
the nature of the beast.
We have a plan of getting millions of out, hopefully by next year. And,
is that plan with Bryn?
What's that?
It is now.
It might be, yeah. And once we feel that there's a saturation of all viewers, not just cardboard, but of the PlayStation and Oculus and Vive, and I have a Vive coming, and so I'm pro VR, but I saw the corrugate lenses device with 2 billion smartphones to support it as the fastest way to get this out there, and I think once that happens, more people are going to be able to see all the wonderful content that my esteemed panelists are creating, and all these amazing people out there. So really trying to be that railroad to help a lot of these content makers.
So I'm going to add to this. By the way, I didn't mention this, but I am chief storyteller and co-founder of Storytech, and I run the Storytech Immersive practice. We're all about VR. We actually produce VR. We package. Our business model is to embed independent filmmakers into existing productions and production companies so that they can onboard capabilities really quickly. I think the barrier or the thing is getting master storytellers, educating master storytellers, getting them involved in the business, having them understand what the possibilities are. Once they get the fact that they can't frame a shot, they can't really light it the way that they would, but to give them the chance to use new tools, just like film noir came in. Right now we have the technology. I think you'd all agree. Is it time for artistry?
Yes.
Yes? I played Helen a piece called Real from Connor Hare, and I watched the tears come out of the head-mounted display. She was so moved by it. So, great. I just want to thank Helen, Bryn, Clifton, Greg. Thank you for being with us today. Thanks for being in the industry and driving it forward. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with more. We are at NAB Live Show. We're broadcasting live from the National Association of Broadcaster Trade Show in Las Vegas, Nevada, from Las Vegas Convention Center. I'm Chief Photographer Adam Napick with KOAA TV in Colorado Springs, Colorado. You're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Here's your host, Brian Seth Hurst.
Welcome back to NAB Show Live. We're honored to have the president and CEO of the National Association of Broadcasters with us today, Gordon Smith, president and CEO of NAB. Gordon joined the National Association of Broadcasters as president and CEO in November of 2009. Prior to NAB, Gordon served as a two-term U.S. Senator from the state of Oregon and later a senior advisor in the Washington offices of Covington Burling LLP. During his tenure in the U.S. Senate, Gordon's committee assignments included the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, the panel that oversees all broadcast-related legislation. He also served on the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Gordon's role on the Commerce Committee and as chairman of the Senate High-Tech Task Force helped foster his interest in new media and new technology issues. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you, Brian.
Actually, I would like to say welcome, Senator. I want to be respectful.
Gordon works just fine.
So, I'm telling you, I've been coming to NAB for many, many years.
Yeah.
There is a buzz here this year, honestly, that I never felt before.
Well, it's really, really exciting. I think the best part of this show is the chance to welcome 100,000 plus attendees and 1 million square feet of exhibits. There's a buzz here because there's a lot going on in broadcasting, and we think it's all bright and sunny uplands into the future.
Well, I would say the picture's really bright with HDR and 4K and wide color gamut.
Yeah.
It's a bright picture. I wanted to talk about the National Association of Broadcasters.
Yeah.
A lot of people watching may not actually be aware that the NAB show is just like the front piece. It's the trade show for the industry. But NAB does a lot all year long in Washington. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, the NAB show is enormously important to media generally and to broadcast TV specifically. So this is sort of the ground zero, if you will, for the year in terms of what we do. But this is collateral to the purpose of NAB, which is to advocate for laws and policies which enable radio and television broadcasters to have the ability to make a living and to provide America the most watched and most listened to content on planet Earth.
So much is changing, Senator. I mean, you have live streaming. I mean, it is a huge trend, huge trend.
Yeah.
And what's happening is even in VR, there's live streaming. You go on the floor, everyone's shooting in 4K and live streaming. The bandwidth requirements, all of those things that it takes to deliver the content. How do you advocate for the broadcasters when it comes to what they need to transmit all of the programming, whether it's through Wi-Fi or available frequencies, or how does that work?
Well, the first thing, we want to be on all the platforms that people, our viewers, our customers want to be on. And so we want our content when and where they want to view it. And it's more than just the old traditional TV set in the living room. That's a very important TV set. But we also have a digital focus. We have obviously streaming, and in the future, I think, with a new receiver standard, it's called ATS 3.0. If broadcasters embrace that, it's going to put us on all kinds of mobile platforms directly with a broadcast signal, and that's very exciting stuff.
You know, one of the projects that I'm doing is actually the live streaming, but it actually needs to be in 6K. So in 6K. And as we're in these brainstorming meetings, we're looking and we're going, well, there's no Wi-Fi solution that's going to work. We actually need a telecom solution to make this work, to bring this to life.
Exactly.
Gordon, I was over in the augmented and virtual reality pavilion and the ad tech pavilion, and they are packed.
They're packed.
There's a conference program that's going on in the ad tech pavilion that has all these like superstars of advertising. Yeah. There is every company in VR that wants to be seen by broadcasters. This is like a coming out party for them, yes?
It is, very much so, and they're very welcome. Obviously, the action is where the future is. The people see it going, and the suppliers and the creators, they're focused on the future, and so are we. And that's why those areas of this show are so full of interested viewers and participants. And you go to the convention floor, got 100,000 people out there. It's full.
So
It's
I just want to, there's something new that I saw today, and it's the Kaleidoscope Virtual Reality Film Festival. And here's a place where people actually, there's actually content on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, it's content, which is, you know, NAB is all about content. It's all about being able to distribute content, learn how to make content, every point along the content cycle.
Exactly.
But this is the first time that I've actually seen the chance to sit down and like watch something.
Watch it
And
created.
The line is incredible.
Yeah, it is. No, it's wonderful, and I am very optimistic about the future of television broadcasting because our members seem interested in investing in the future of making sure we have the best picture, the best content, the best distribution platform, with the spectrum allowed us by the federal government, which, you know, the necessity is the mother of invention. Spectrum is scarce, and so we're figuring out how to use it better and in more varieties with less of it.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. How does the political climate affect your ability to represent broadcasters today?
Well, politics is a mess. I'm a
You're a
witness to
veteran,
that.
yes,
I'm a
you've lived
veteran.
through
I've
it.
got the scars to show, but I think it's important for the viewers to know that our issues don't fall Republican or Democrat. Our issues are about human life and quality of life, and being an informed citizen, being entertained when you need it, and certainly being warned in cases of emergency. There's no substitute for broadcasters as the first informers. There's first responders. We're the first informers. And we increasingly, with the difficulties that our friends in newspapers are having, we're sort of becoming the central repository for investigative journalism. It's really, really important to our democracy and to have an informed citizenry that broadcasting survive, but more that we thrive. And so our job at NAB is to make sure the environment is there in laws and regulations and in shows like this where we foster that, all of those good qualities that help confer quality of life on the American people.
So if you, first of all, thank you for that, because I'm a big television watcher, and you know, you want it when you want it, you want to be able to get it.
Right.
So what are some of the big issues that are facing the television industry right now?
Well, certainly issues like retransmission consent. We just simply ask the Congress and the FCC for the freedom to bargain for the value of our content in a marketplace where its value can be determined rather objectively. And so retransmission consent dollars, which is essentially renting our signal, renting our content to the pay TV group, it's a very important piece of the funding necessary to keep content great. So that's one thing. And then obviously another is the spectrum auction. I was on the Senate Commerce Committee when broadcasting went from analog to digital, and broadcasting gave up a third of its spectrum. But with digital, we could do everything that we did before and more.
4 times as much.
Yeah, 4 times as much. But now we're being asked to give up another third. Eventually, the Congress is going to have to say, no matter how much we like and love and need our cell phones and other gadgets that are very bandwidth hogging, we need them to answer the question, do they want live local television? And the answer, I think, is we do, as a people, that we the people need to have...
Wasn't that the original mandate?
Of course it was. Of course it was. And the great thing about broadcasting is you can get it for free. You just need an antenna. And there's a big section of our country that can't afford $200 a month for pay TV and needs to be included in the video future of tomorrow. And we at NAB are fighting to make sure that they have that. But eventually you come to a minimum of spectrum necessary to keep a broadcast industry. No other industry in telecommunications serves the public values that we serve in terms of local, live, the information. I mean, I get up in the morning and I check out the weather, the local news, and what the traffic pattern is, and those are important things to know. I count on it. Increasingly, more and more Americans are turning also to broadcasting. Ours are the top-rated shows every week. Every week.
Yeah, you know, it's very interesting for content that you can... do you think this is like a golden age of television content?
I really do, because if you look at the top 100 shows of any week, 95 of them are all on broadcast channels. And that tells you about where the eyeballs are, where the content is best, and where the information is most needed by people in every local community. You know, if you go to Britain, for example, if you live in Manchester, you're going to watch the BBC National News.
Yes,
Yeah.
but you also have local, right?
Yeah, but if you're in Manchester, New Hampshire, you're going to have your own local news. That is unique to the United States of America, and it's a real benefit and a blessing that the original legislation and the FCC policy since have helped to foster. But eventually you can take too much away, and then you end up starting to cut many people in our country out of a video future unless you're wealthy enough to be able to pay for it.
So are you also educating Congress about these issues? Do they not know enough? Do they know enough?
I wish I could tell you that every member of Congress understood our issues, but they don't. They come from their own backgrounds, their own life experiences, the industries they worked in. It may be energy, it may be agriculture, maybe an accountant. That doesn't mean they understand the technologies of telecommunications. But when I go into them, which I do very regularly, and explain, look, do you like your advertising or do you like the news to be about you and your citizens, your constituents? They say, of course. Well, then we're the only game in town. It's in broadcast television and, of course, radio as well, where Congress connects to we the people. And there's no more efficient medium than broadcasting for that.
So let's talk about radio for a minute.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have to admit, I tune in locally for just the reasons you said, for my traffic, for my local weather, for that stuff. But then I'm over when I'm driving, I'm over on XM satellite radio. What are the changes that are taking place in the radio industry?
Well, again, it's fracturing, and there's the free model and there's the pay model. And so if you get XM Sirius, you're paying a subscription fee. And there's many things on there I like to listen to as well. But free is better than a fee. And so we need terrestrial, traditional radio. But the issues that we face is that in radio, the performance community always wants us to pay them for allowing us to advertise their music. Traditionally, there's been, we get the play and they get the promotion. But with the internet, a lot less records are bought, and so now they want us to pay them for playing their music.
So we're talking about performing rights organizations asking, like ASCAP and BMI, asking for higher fees?
But big majorities in Congress oppose that, and we keep fighting that, and I suppose we always will. But there are other issues as well. On the streaming platform, we do pay the performers, but no one who's streaming is actually making much, if any money. And so the economics of the streaming platform are actually very, very limited. And so, it's a problem. And then, of course, radio needs to be on its traditional platforms. We have to fight. If you bought a car lately, it's not easy to find a radio. But it is the most demanded feature of an automobile. So we have to keep reminding Detroit and other automakers that we're there because their customers need us and want us and expect us to be there. So we need to fight for our place on the dashboard, and as well as the future on these mobile devices we all carry around. Fortunately, Sprint started it. AT&T has agreed to it. T-Mobile has followed. We keep hoping Verizon will wake up and say, yeah, we'll do it too. They're lighting up their Android phones. Apple should do the same because their customers need it. And, you can get radio on your Apple now, but you're paying for it. And you're paying for it in terms of your data caps. You're paying for it in terms of the amount of electricity that consumes, your battery life. Broadcasting is just much more efficient if you can get a terrestrial receiver in it. And the phone companies are finally coming around and agreeing, we need to provide that for the good of the American people.
It's so interesting to me that, I grew up in Philadelphia, and WOGL is like my favorite oldie station in the country. But that you can go to TuneIn Radio and I can listen to that while I'm in LA. What does that mean for the radio industry?
Well, it means localism is lost necessarily. If you're in LA, you want to listen to LA stations. But if you're from Philadelphia and you're in LA, you can, through a streaming service, you can get your Philadelphia station.
Well, it's good too because my dad's still on the radio in Atlantic City, so
Okay.
I can get to listen to him too. So, just two more quick questions. What do you do when you're not in Las Vegas?
Well,
What occupies your time? How much does this absorb?
Well, this is a big part of it. NAB is just a real pleasure and a privilege to represent broadcasters. I grew up in a very political family. My dad worked for Eisenhower.
Wow.
My mother's last name is Udall. So I was sort of born to the political battle. And what I love about public service, I find in broadcasting, because the heart of a broadcaster is that of a public servant. Because what we provide for free, if you want it for free, is the essential information, entertainment, emergency information that people count on and deserve to have as American citizens. We're the only one that does that. Everyone wants what we have, our content and our spectrum. No one wants to meet the public obligations we meet. And those public obligations are a genuine benefit to the American people. So we're the basis for it.
I have gotten such an education just sitting here with you today because I now realize that one of the first things I do when I go to a new city or I'm traveling is I turn on the radio.
Yeah.
Because I can get the personality of the city. I can get the culture of the city. I get a feeling for what that person, the personality of that city
live,
is.
it's local, it's meaningful. It informs you to be a citizen in this great country that knows what's going on.
Where do you see the future of broadcasting going? There's so many ways to get content to people.
I see it on the radio side. I see streaming continuing to grow if the economics will support it. I see it as an essential part of the automobile, and it will soon be available on more and more cell phones. On the television side, I think with a new receiver system, there's the real promise for 4K, 8K, immersive sound, mobility that penetrates walls. This is great stuff for the future of broadcasting. But I always describe broadcasting as the indispensable and irreplaceable part of telecommunications, because no one has the architecture, the physics of one to everyone.
Yes.
And for free if you want it for free. Whereas the other broadband approaches, they're one to one as opposed to one to everyone. And that is very bandwidth hogging, which is why they keep wanting more and more spectrum. But eventually, policymakers have to say, do we want it available to everyone or just those who can afford it? And NAB is fighting to make sure it's available to everyone.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say thank you for the basis for everyone. I think that I have noticed a resurgence of live local television now.
Oh, yeah.
And I see crews just where I go. I see crews out, and the remote truck is not what it used to be. It's so much easier now, and there's so much great technology.
Absolutely, it's all on that show floor.
I was just going to ask you, have you had a chance to walk the floor and see something that blew you away?
Not yet, because we just finished our general session, but that's where I'm headed.
Well, I want to tell you that the ATSC3 demo is pretty good. Walking over there and watching all that and seeing, because the fact of the matter is that people, we are our culture.
Right.
Our culture is reflected back at us by news, by the content that's created by content creators, whether it's on a local level or whether it's on a national level.
Exactly.
And if we don't have access to that, how are we going to know who we are?
And you shouldn't have to be rich to have access to it. That's the beauty of broadcasting. The America you and I grew up in, it was available to everyone. And we think it should continue to be.
Well, I can tell you, just as someone who has the same belief that you do, that I have actually cut the cord.
Well, you're not alone.
And I have a great setup now. Yeah. The television, I've got a great digital antenna.
And you probably get 40 stations for free.
Not only do I get 40 stations for free, but I got some favorites in there.
Yeah.
And the interface is much better than I thought it would be to be able to find these digital channels.
Right.
And even the sound quality that's coming over digital is like amazing.
You see, if you take our content and you shove it through a pipe, or you bounce it off a satellite, you lose something. If you want the best picture, you'll get it through an antenna.
And I have noticed that.
Yeah.
So, Gordon Smith,
Thank you, Brian.
CEO of NAB. I want to thank you for all of this. I have had such a good time on the floor. I have been wowed repeatedly.
Well, thank you for being here.
So, and thank you.
All right.
What a pleasure.
All the best to your viewers.
So, there's more to come from NAB Live Show. Thank you very much for watching. We're live in Las Vegas at NAB Show.